Hello. Earlier I said that I would do another video, and I wanted to talk about some of the psychological uh, issues that we as a people have because of these 400 years of um, of slavery. Um, Before I get into that, I want to remind everybody that I have product on my website, gorgeousstray.com. My name is Andre Taylor, my government name. My street name is Gorgeous Dre. My Hebrew name is Leviticus. This is the first time on video that I will introduce the name of Leviticus, and here on out, that's what you will hear in my videos. Let me start off like this. I had a friend of mine, after doing some 20 years in prison, he came home and we were having a conversation, and I noticed that he would constantly say in his conversations with me that, man, I'm just a convict, man. And I told him, after hearing this several times, is that that's a problem. And he really didn't understand what I was saying to him at the time until I explained to him why it's a problem. I gave him this analogy of slavery, and I wanted him to have an understanding that psychologically he is operating out of a defeatist personality, psychologically. The 400 years of slavery have so damaged him psychologically that he's just resigned himself to be a convict. And many brothers in the inner cities have resigned themselves to be quote unquote criminals. But let me explain to you why that is and why that's so dangerous. Well, it all starts from the laws. This country seems to pride themselves, and not this country, other ones, but this one, because I'm in this one, seems to pride themselves on their quote unquote law. Everything is law. And I've said something in one of my other videos. I said that law is not the most important thing. I said that the preservation of life trumps law all the time. In other words, that you as an individual doing whatever you can do to stay living trumps whatever law of the land exists, right? So in the time of slavery, there was laws that were created that said that you as a slave, you don't have certain rights. If you tried to run away from your slave master, then you will be considered a criminal based upon that law. And so I could imagine maybe the first 5 or maybe the first decade, 10 years, that, the brothers that were freshly over here from 1619 were wrestling with that and rejected that thought process. And I imagine over 50 years of indoctrination and the forcing of unjust laws and evil laws that maybe 50% of the population, because there probably was a 50% growth in new children being born in slavery, and probably more than that. And I believe that they adjusted easier to what they were considered based upon law than the first slaves that came over here. There was still a sense of resistance from that idea that they were a criminal because they wanted their own freedom. So after 400 years, it was kind of weaved into the DNA, so to speak, of the subconscious of Black people, especially the Black male, that he indeed was a criminal because of the laws that were in the land. You understand? So that idea, that subconscious thought process still exists in us today, that you are indeed a convict or you are a criminal. Now understand that the law was unjust, right? So what I want to do today is try to uh, disenfranchise the thought process from you, that you will have a disconnection of that idea that has plagued us for so long, by explaining how it came about and why you're comfortable feeling that way about yourself, and the detriment of feeling that way about yourself. So just because a law is created does not mean that it is just. Because man creates a law does not mean that God has backed the law. Right? Remember earlier I said that the preservation of life trumps law, right? So whatever we were doing in the times of slavery to try to live, it trumped the idea, the law that was created, that you are subhuman, and that for you to get away from this bondage and this slavery that we've brought you into, you are a criminal. You understand? So I know over a period of time that this is the crazy part, and I want you to understand the trickery of this. I know over a period of time, brothers had resigned themselves to being quote unquote criminal. It has a negative connotation to it. Criminal has a negative connotation to it, right? So I know over a period of time, being under slavery, brothers came up and just accepted that I'm a criminal, even though, or albeit, it was an unjust law. You understand? So after a period of time, you begin to believe that the law was more important than the preservation of life. And you felt a certain kind of way about yourself, that you were a criminal. Because over the years of indoctrination, they've made you believe that that's what you are. Because you're trying to buck against a law that is beneath the preservation of life. Okay? So when my friend was talking to me, he was talking out of an idea that he was the bad guy. He had resigned himself to the fact that I'm a bad person. Because over the years, the indoctrination had finally convinced him that he was a criminal. He believed the law. He thought the law substantiated the idea of himself because it was that important. Right? I'm telling you today that you are not the bad person. Let me explain this to you. Let me talk to some of my street brothers. I come from the streets. You know my story. The one thing that's wonderful about Yahweh, when he chooses an individual, a lot of times he chooses them out of some, let's say, very provocative lifestyles, you know. Of course, you know that I was in the lifestyle and I was a pimp from the movie American Pimp. They knew me as Gorgeous Dre. And I came through that lifestyle. Some people are selling drugs. Some people are doing whatever they can do, right? So the people that are in power, because they can create and make laws, they can make you believe that you are an evil person, even though the situation was created for you to have to do what you have to do. Give you a perfect illustration what I mean by that, because I know I'm going to have some detractors. In slavery time, some of the things that some brothers do today, they were forced to do in slavery time. And they didn't get no money for it. They were forced into prostitution. They were forced to do the biddings of their quote unquote masters. They were forced to do a lot of things that some things that we do today are considered against the law or evil. But they were forced to do it. We as a people were forced to do it. Why? Because we were in a situation that we had to do what we had to do. Now, in our own country, amongst our own people, in our own set of righteous laws that are governed by righteousness, some of those things we would never have done. But we were in a situation where we were forced to do some certain things, right? So I've heard somebody say, it's not the people that are doing the bad things that matter more than the people who have created an environment so that bad things have to happen. You understand? So, yes, I'm not saying that we as a people in certain situations don't have to take some type of responsibility for some of the things that are going on in our communities, or some of the things that are going on as far as unjust things, right? But I'm saying that the people at fault more are the people who created an environment for us to have to do it. Like slavery, right? We were forced to do certain things because we just had to do what we had to do. So say, now after slavery is here and there was some situations that happened that we had to do what we had to do. Some of the brothers out there that sell drugs, that pimp and, hustle, and it's not an ideal situation. But you're talking about subjects. You're talking about an oppressed people that are trying to come out of an oppression and subjugation, right? And I'm not saying that it's okay, but I'm saying as God sees it, we are in a situation that requires us to have to do, in many cases, what we have to do. It's not an ideal lifestyle for us. It's not something that we want to do. But if there are things that are put in place through laws that disenfranchise us from the quote unquote American dream, then sometimes we're relegated to having to do what we have to do, right? Now, I'm sure that there will be a time that we will have our own nation. And some of the things that we are doing now and that we had to do in slavery will not be accepted because the conditions are different. The terms have changed. You understand? We will not be the oppressed people then. We'll be a people in our own country governed by our own laws, righteous laws. You understand what I'm saying? So let me go back to this idea that you in the hood, in the ghettos, you feel that you're a criminal. They have beat you down to believing that you are the bad guy. But you are not. I want you to understand your position so that you can stand on righteousness. This is very important what I'm saying to you. Because if you think you are the criminal and the bad guy, you'll never feel righteous. You'll never be able to stand on righteousness. You see? So I want you to understand your positioning where you are. You are a subject, right? Say there's a king and then there's the subjects. We were brought over here as subjects. We are subjected underneath another people. You understand that? Okay. You're subjected and you are oppressed. All right. So it's important for you to understand, as you are a subject and you are oppressed still to this day, that the preservation of life, understand, the preservation of life then trumps their law, even if their law is to destroy you. You have a right by God to do anything you have to do to stay afloat and to stay living. This is real stuff. You're not going to hear this nowhere else. I'm going to give it to you raw. I want you to see, I'm not taking any culpability away from you from your actions. I'm not saying for you to be a wild animal, to be full of vitriol and anger and unforgiveness. See, people use this, Christian people use this all the time. You need to forgive, you need to forgive. Who you really need to forgive is your own people. Because in that fight to stay afloat, sometimes things happen that hurt your own people. Right? Let me break it down to you like this. Say a man is in the middle of the ocean drowning. And this is the depiction of the black life. Right? And he's drowning. Right? And when somebody drowns, they're kicking and they're frantic and they're doing everything they can do to stay alive. You know what? Even if somebody jumps in to try to help that person, sometimes the person is such in a frantic state of mind that he'll darn near drown the person that's trying to save him. Do you understand? So this is the state of black people in this state that we're in today, that we are drowning. And we're kicking and fighting, and it looks ugly. It looks ugly. A person drowning is not a pretty sight. They're trying to preserve their life, doing anything they can to stay afloat. No one drowns cute. No one drowns pretty. It's an ugly, ugly looking situation. My brothers, my sisters, I want you to understand how God is looking at you in your circumstance. Don't believe the lie of the unjust laws. You are not the evil person. You are not the criminal. You are the oppressed person, struggling, fighting to stay afloat in your life. And God deems the preservation of your life more important than any law. You have a right to do whatever you can do to stay alive. Don't let them make you believe that the most important thing in the land is their law. We can't trust them with their laws. They have a history of evil laws. Trust God. Take some responsibility for your life. Like I said before, I'm not taking the culpability, the responsibility out of your hands. There is something that you have to do to stand in this righteousness, to stand in this justice. Right? I had to do it. I had to do it. Yes, I was out there pimping. I was being all I could be. I knew that I had to be serious doing what I was doing in those streets, because I know in those streets, if you're not serious, somebody's going to run you over, because I'm facing life and death situations every day. And so I gave everything I needed to give in order to be successful at that, even though the vice might not have been pleasing, might not have been an ideal situation for me. But I gave my all into the game because I had to do what I had to do. But I transitioned with the help of the understanding that Yahweh has given me. I transitioned with his help. And I have to give you the information so that when you're ready for that transition, you can make it smoothly. I hope that in the near future that I could have some type of place for a lot of us. I'm working on it, and that's going to take some time. Well, I don't have to depend on the federal government to help you or to empower you. That we have our own banking systems, our own schools of thought to take in from the inner cities first, to empower you. My desire is that in the near future. And I pray Yahweh that it would speed along. But I don't have the resources to be able to say, come, and I will cover you, and I will take care of you, and I will teach you. So this is the means by which I'm giving that to you, through this means of social media. Until God has given us a place that we can come by the droves and love each other and restore each other, no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing. I want you to understand, sometimes I understand that you got to do what you got to do. But that's not the ideal situation for us. Just like slavery wasn't the ideal situation for us. Do you understand that? I love you. And when I give to you what I give, it's because I love you. I'm not standing before you as a man that is perfect. My past is checkered. You know my story. But I am standing before you as a man that has been to the bottom of the barrel. To the bottom. But God has brought me forth. Not for me, for us. I'm one speaking in the wilderness. There might be others. Listen to what I'm telling you. I don't want you to think that you are the bad guy. Understand who you are. You are an oppressed people. Understand the implications of that when I say that. I love you. And again, remember that the preservation of life trumps law. Leviticus